Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Shots on Target podcast. My name is Phil, joined by my man Jakey here.
What's good, everyone?
And this episode is literally going to be another just rundown of everything football related. We're going to touch on the Premier League. We're going to touch on the transfer window. Obviously, the Super Cup has literally just finished. And everything else football related.
Sounds pretty good.
Looking forward to it. A lot has happened in just a week.
Yeah, a shed load has happened.
Absolutely. So we'll start with the Premier League rundown. Just get the fixtures up here. So starting off on Friday night, we had Man City versus Burnley. Not much to say about this game. Man City comfortable winners 3-0. I think Burnley did adapt themselves very well against City. I mean, it's against the reigning champions that are looking to make another statement as usual. I watched the game personally, and I think Burnley acquitted themselves very well. Man City, just Man City as per usual. We had Erling Haaland back in there with another 2 goals, kicking off exactly where he left off last season.
Doing wonders for my fantasy team.
Yeah, and mine as well. Absolutely beautiful fantasy points. Captain that geezer.
I think Burnley can be a little hard done by with not really the red card decision, but the tackle itself. It's such a silly tackle there.
It was a silly
Attempt
tackle.
to pull.
And luckily for Burnley at that point, the game was done anyway.
Yeah.
But it's still a very silly one, and the guy will look back on it and go, "Why did I do that?" But
yeah, definitely.
I still have not changed my mind about Burnley. I think Vincent Kompany is going to have them playing a lovely style of football, and they're going to be exciting to watch this season.
They played some good football. To be fair, they missed a few chances.
They did. They really did. They really did, and it's exactly how I expected Burnley to be after watching them in the Championship last season. They're doing exactly what I expect them to do.
Mm-hmm.
But moving on to the fat fixtures of games on the Saturday, kicking off with Arsenal versus Forest. This was a bit of a weird one. Arsenal, again, I watched this game, and Arsenal absolutely dominated this game for large portions of it. Looking very comfortable with their new signings, Timber, Rice, and Havertz.
Timber out for a long time.
Yes,
currently, another ACL injury.
Could be a big loss for Arsenal, that one, because I think that was the key signing for them.
I thought Arsenal were quite lucky in phases, you know.
At the end of the game, yes, they were. But like I said, for about 70 minutes, they were pretty much dominating. Forest were trying to play on the counter, but then obviously when they brought on Alanga, that's when the game and Awoniyi, which I can't believe they didn't start.
Yeah.
Completely changed the game for Forest. They looked an absolute threat on the counter attack, and it nearly hurt Arsenal in the end. But
they definitely brewed missed chances. They had a few early on in the first half where you think if you take them, that's a completely different game.
Exactly, and again, I think if Awoniyi's on the pitch, he probably takes one of those chances.
Yeah,
but once again,
for the wrong player.
Exactly, but once again for Arsenal, they've picked up where they've left off last season, grinding out results, not looking absolutely incredible, but a win is a win, and they kicked off exactly how everyone expected them to.
100%.
So moving on to Bournemouth versus West Ham. Obviously West Ham fan here. Jared Bowen scored a lovely goal to open up the scoring. From what I've seen of this game, it was pretty much a nothing game from both teams. Both teams trying to win the game but cancelling each other out. Bournemouth got a deserved equaliser through Solanke. And really not much else to say on that game, to be honest. It was, I think, a good point for West Ham in the grand scheme of things. I know it's only against Bournemouth, but it's away as well, and you didn't lose your first game of the season. That's always good to start off without a loss. I think it
showed as well that you're missing the number 9.
Oh, 1,000,000%.
You desperately need to sign someone in the last 2 weeks of the window.
1,000,000%.
Because if you're going into this season without a fucking out and out striker, yeah, it's not looking good.
No, I agree completely. I still think Antonio can do a job, but he's just not a striker. He's not a
20 goal a season player at all, is he?
Not a chance. No, not a chance. I'm hoping that if Man City want Paqueta, give us Alvarez. we'll do a swap deal, mate. Not a problem.
That would be your dream.
Oh, I'll be buzzing, mate. Absolutely buzzing. But moving on, so we got Brighton versus Luton. This one was actually an interesting one from what I heard on Gillette Soccer Saturday. Brighton Brighton were dominating for large periods of the game, as you expect them to do against Luton Town. But Luton apparently had their chances. Apparently Luton didn't make it all too easy for Brighton. Even though the scoreline was 4-1, I don't think it actually respectfully shows what the game actually was. But
it also sparked the first of the officiating issues in week 1. I think it was Lewis Dunk handball.
Yeah,
hit his elbow as he's sliding. It's just never a penalty, and it gets given.
Yeah, that one was a very weird one. It was one of those where it sort of felt like they felt sorry for Luton at the time and gave it, but officiating should never be like that. But end of the day, Brighton pick up 3 points, start the season exactly how they should do against Luton, who everyone expects to struggle. So moving on, Everton versus Fulham. Now this one, Everton fans will be kicking themselves right now. Absolutely kicking themselves. I know you want to touch on the officiating decision, which I will let you get to, not a problem. But honestly, the amount of chances Everton had in this game and did not take, this is going to be their downfall. These are the games you have to win if you're going to stay in the Premier League. It was exactly the same last season. It's why they were in a relegation battle for so long. If you're playing that well and you're making that many chances, you have to put the ball in the back of the net. It's that simple.
I was speaking to one of my mates who's an Everton fan, and he was saying, because I think he was at the game, it was a case of no team deserved to win. In the sense that no one really took the chances. You had the Everton disallowed goal, which I'll touch on in a bit. Neil Maupay had countless amount of chances, and from what he was saying, on another day they go in. But he said it was almost as if Everton set up to get a point.
Yeah.
They eventually went into a 5-5 system and just looked to.
Well, I'll let you touch on that officiating decision. I've seen it, but I want to hear your thoughts.
My initial reaction was I can see why that's given as a foul. With the way they're trying to clamp down on what Harry Kane was very good at when he was at Spurs, of the backing into a player and then going over the top, and that being a foul.
Yeah.
Looking back, I do still stick by that decision, but if I'm an Everton fan, I'm very hard done by.
Yeah,
because if that's anywhere else on the pitch, that's not a foul.
I agree. I think for me though, it's one of those where some refs will give it, some refs won't, and unfortunately, because it led to
a
goal, it's amplified 50 times more. You probably see 15 of those in a game, but because that one led to a goal, it's amplified, unfortunately, for an Everton fan. But
100%.
But as I say, I still think that at that point it shouldn't be a case of Everton fans feeling hard done by, because they had the chances.
Oh, 100%.
They had the chances. The game was in their hands. But moving on, so Sheffield United versus Crystal Palace. Another tough one for a newly promoted side in Sheffield United. At home with the home crowd. It sounded like it was an absolute nothing game again. From what I heard on Soccer Saturday and looking at the highlights, there wasn't many chances. I think Crystal Palace are going to be missing some key players this year that they've let go of. Zaha being one of them. Elise, it looks like he's off as well, and he was the only one that looked like doing anything on Saturday.
Yeah.
So it's going to be tough for Crystal Palace. They're going to have to use the last week or so of that transfer window wisely with the money that they're bringing in. But
I think it's promising for Sheffield fans, the fact that it was only 1-0 against such an established Premier League side. It's been when was the last time they were under? It's been a few seasons, hasn't it?
Oh god, it's been quite a while. Sheffield United.
And obviously, you look at them losing Sander Berge to Burnley, who was a key player for them. They've brought in that Gustavo Hamer, who looks an absolute fucking brilliant player.
Yeah.
But I still don't think they'll have enough to stay up. I'd be very, very shocked if they are one of the three that go down.
Oh, me too. I have Sheffield United and Luton right near the bottom, near each other, to be honest, because I think, as bad as it sounds and as great it is to see them in the Premier League, I think they're two teams that probably shouldn't have been promoted. Do you know what I mean?
100%.
They're not ready for the Premier League yet, and they just don't have the funds to back it up, unfortunately. But moving on to the highest scoring game of the weekend, the evening kickoff on Saturday, Newcastle versus Aston Villa. Now, I expected this one
5-1.
to be a tasty affair, but I didn't expect it to be as tasty as it was. Like,
Oh, 100%.
you had Newcastle coming out absolutely flying at Aston Villa, and Villa just like a bit in shock about how much Newcastle were pressing them, which led to the opening goal. Then I think it was a few minutes later, Moussa Diaby on his debut for Aston Villa scores a lovely equaliser.
Very well taken.
Very, very well taken in the box. I think it was on the, I can't remember if it was on the full volley or the half volley. Either way, he connected with it superbly. But then from that point on, it was, I think Aston Villa maybe dominated the next like 5-10 minutes on a bit of a high, but then it was all Newcastle. As soon as they went 2-1 up, it was all Newcastle.
It started going downhill for Villa when Mings went off injured.
Yes, it definitely did.
I think he was that was the turning point. That he's going to be a big miss again. Another looking like ACL injury for.
I think it depends. For me, it depends for Villa how long it takes Pau Torres to get used to the Premier League, because he looked a bit lost when he came on for Mings. He looked very, very lost. Isak had the run of him all game long. But once again, Newcastle looking very strong, exciting. Anthony Gordon looks a brand new player this season. Isak doing Isak things, and Callum Wilson comes on and looks amazing. Same with Harvey Barnes as well. But for me,
scores a goal on his debut, doesn't he?
He does, yeah. He should have scored two. Should have scored two. He tried to square Callum Wilson and absolutely messed up the pass. Newcastle could have had 7 or 8 in this game, honestly. Like you said, as soon as Mings went off, no one was commanding that back line. So they were playing such a high line against Newcastle. With all that pace in behind, they were having a field day. And Emery's going to have to fix that fast. But fantastic 3 points for Newcastle, 5-1, top of the Premier League.
Speedy recovery for Mings as well. Hopefully he's not out too long.
Absolutely. So moving on to Sunday now, the early kickoff for Brentford-Tottenham. Tottenham's first game without Harry Kane in
worrying.
God knows how many years.
I think very worrying if I'm a Spurs fan.
Yes, they didn't look great. I think Brentford had a few defensive frailties that allowed the goals. Obviously, Romero opened the scoring, and then I think it was a minute later came off with concussion. So that was annoying for Tottenham fans, because Romero, even though he's very abrasive and he makes stupid decisions, he probably is their best defender. And Brentford looked very good on the counter attack. Just once again, they just look like they're missing Tony. They don't have. If they had Tony on Sunday, they probably win that 4-5-2.
Yeah.
Because they were absolutely dominating Tottenham for large portions of the game. Their pace was really troubling Spurs on the counter. You could see exactly how Brentford want to play. And Tottenham play this sort of style of football where they'll pass the ball side to side and wait for an opening, and it just won't come, and then they'll just run out of ideas. Then they'll lose the ball and concede a chance on the counter-attack because they'll try and play a nothing ball. And without Harry Kane, it, like you say, it is looking a bit worrying for Tottenham. Obviously, they still have a little bit of the window left. 100
so just
million,
over two weeks, 100 million to spend.
100 million to spend. They need to do that very, very wisely. I will say the one shining light, though, is James Maddison did look good for him. He put in a delightful ball for the opener to Romero, and I still think Maddison will be a talent for him.
He'll be a very good player for them.
I think Heung-min Son, though, needs to do big
step
things
up
for Tottenham. Yeah,
needs to step up.
But moving on, we've got the Chelsea-Liverpool game as well. We're trying to cut this as short as possible, guys, but obviously some big fixtures this weekend for the opening season. Chelsea versus Liverpool, I'll let you touch on that, being the Liverpool fan.
Yeah, a very interesting game. I thought no team really looked brilliant. No team really looked awful. You can see where Liverpool's shortcomings are. We don't have a recognised defensive midfielder. Yep. I didn't think McAllister played too bad filling in that role, but you can tell he doesn't have his mind switched on defending. It's just not what he does.
Yeah, he looks a bit lost.
We combined well for the first. Some good football, a brilliant ball by McAllister to Salah then to Diaz, and we opened the score in 1-0.
That ball from Salah, oh my god.
He was... he was hit and miss that game. First 35 minutes he looked electric, and then for the rest of the game he was a passenger.
Yeah.
Which is a shame, because, we want him to keep scoring goals. We want him to be as switched on as possible.
I think the problem with Salah in that aspect was that Chelsea played in such a way that Chilwell was pinning back Trent, and for Salah to do well, he needs Trent up there with him, not pinned back, because Trent provides the space for Salah. So it was an unfortunate one. Not every game's going to be like that for Salah, obviously.
Yeah,
so
he's still going to have a good season.
Oh, definitely.
And then, not long after, we go 1-0 up. So I think it's just before the break, 41 minutes. Ball's not dealt with, knocked on, and is it Diaby? Well,
yeah.
I don't know how you say his name.
Yeah, Dizazi, I think.
Dizazi taps in a very, very easy goal, unmarked.
And that changes the game.
And that changes the game. Chelsea are on top. They very could have gone 2-1 up. Luckily, Chilwell's offside after rounding Alisson. But then on the other hand, we could have gone 2-0 up with Salah.
Yep.
It was a very back and forth game, and then in the second half they kind of came into their own, but no one really created chances. However, I do want to touch on very quickly the third or fourth officiating error this weekend.
Nicholas
Jackson's handball. Look, I get what they're saying. His hand's his hand's close to him, but it's goal bound. Whether the keeper saves it or not, it's goal bound. You can see it. It evidently hits his arm. I think it's one of them. I think it's a penalty because I'm the Liverpool fan. I've spoken to some who think it's not. I've spoken to some who think it is. But I think it's just consistency. You've seen the one against Brighton given, and it's not a penalty, and then you see the one against Chelsea, which is arguable, and it's just not.
I'll be honest. When I saw it in real time, I immediately thought, "Oh, that's a penalty." In real time, I immediately thought that's a penalty. But then when they slowed it down, and I think it was Gary Neville that made a very good point, because Diaz flicks it on. Jackson's already jumped, then Diaz flicks it only slightly, but he still gets a touch on it, and it kind of diverts the ball to Jackson's hand. It's one of those where, again, I think some refs give it, some refs don't. It's quite a tough one. It's not exactly clear and obvious.
I think the fact that it's goal bound is what makes that element of...
It's a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah.
For sure.
I would be glad if it wasn't given against us, but I'm fucked off that it wasn't given for us, sort of thing. But we'll move on to the first Monday night the only Monday night fixture.
Yeah, first one of the season, and I'm going to go straight into the decision of the weekend. This penalty decision, I'm sorry, but if you're a football fan, I don't care if you're a Man United fan or whatever, if you are and you say it's not a penalty, you've got your Man United tinted glasses on.
It's Stonewall.
It is so Stonewall. Absolute Stonewall. There is a reason why the two officiates, the referee and the person in the VAR, have been suspended and won't take part this weekend, because of how bad of a decision that really, really was.
I want to also just touch on the only person that received a yellow card in that scenario was Wolves' manager, which I think is fucking astounding.
Yeah, it really is. Well,
it's Stonewall.
If it's given as a penalty, Onana has to be booked. But
yeah,
it's one of those where, I mean, you just have to be blind not to see it. The ball was completely gone. He's come out late. He's missed the ball. He's cleared out two Wolves defenders, not just one, two Wolves players. And it's mind-blowing to me, absolutely mind-blowing. But fair play to the Premier League.
I thought United were very lucky as well in this game. Not just with that decision, just the way they played.
1,000,000%. Wolves dominated. Wolves need a striker. If they had a striker, then they would have pissed on Man United, simple as. They had chance after chance after chance, Wolves.
100%.
And I will say, though, that Onana did do well in the game other than that moment. Yeah. But I'm sorry, but you can't
touch you can't not touch on that.
You just can't. But like I say, I have to say fair play to the Premier League. They taken action straight away about it. Unfortunately, they can't give Wolves a bloody point. But
Yeah.
it's just, you got to hope that the officiating gets better. You really do.
Which is probably the worry that it won't.
Yes. But
we shall move on.
we will. So we've pretty much already touched on
The officiating.
the officiating as well. So we're going to move on from that. You wanted to touch on the Mbappe situation.
Yeah. Obviously, news coming out after Saudi take another player from Europe. Neymar has obviously joined Al Hilal. Or Al Ali. I don't know which one it is. It's one of them.
Al Hilal, I think.
Yeah, Al Hilal. For a ridiculous amount of money. It's now come out that Mbappe was never intending on leaving. He wants to sign a new deal. And at the age of 25, he's still playing in Ligue 1.
I genuinely think... Sorry to cut you off. I genuinely think that this has only come out now, though, because it saves face for PSG. I think they've literally sat him down and gone, look, we don't want you to sit on the bench all season. You don't want to sit on the bench all season. Just sign a 1-year extension so we can get some money for you next year. So you can't go on a free. Real Madrid have to actually pay for you because you're one of the best players in the world and we need that valuation. Yeah. I think they've both just come to that agreement. He's agreed. He's probably already been in talks with Real Madrid. Real Madrid have probably said, yeah, fuck it, we've got the money. We'll pay for you instead on a free. It's annoying for Real Madrid, but what can you do? But everyone knows... Real Madrid want Mbappe. They need Mbappe. Simple as that. He's in their plans for the next 7-8 years. Yeah. So I think makes sense on all parties, but it's just been a stupid situation. It would have been better if nothing was said all frigging market. No one would have cared. No one would have cared.
100%. I think it's so pathetic. You could have seen it coming a mile off, to be fair, if you really looked at it.
Genuinely. As soon as it came out saying that Mbappe wouldn't play this season, I was like, no chance.
Yeah, he was always going to play.
There's no way one of the best players in the world sits on the bench all season. Not a chance. 100%. Stupid. But the problem is rumours just make things 10 times worse because people listen to rumours. Yeah. I'm one of these people that I don't listen to rumours. I like cold, hard facts. Like, if I see a rumour that Julian Alvarez is going to sign for West Ham from Man City in a Paqueta swap, until I see Julian Alvarez at our training or at our training ground or something, I don't believe shit.
Yeah.
Because there's so many rumours circulating around, it's just, what's the point? But moving on, the next big transfer was Harry Kane. He made his move to Bayern Munich.
And the curses seem to follow.
Yes. Yes. The first day he arrived at Munich, Bayern lost 3-0 in the Super Cup final thanks to a Dani Olmo hat-trick.
He was phenomenal as well, Dani Olmo.
He was. I watched that game. He was incredible. I really like Leipzig. Really like Leipzig, man. They're like Brighton for me, but like a little bit higher tier. They'll literally sell players and then bring in players that are pretty much just as good, if not better. Like that Simons from PSV. What a talent that kid's going to be. What a talent. I know he was a talent at PSV, but he already showed in one game, like, tormenting some of the best players in the Bundesliga. Like, incredible. Absolutely incredible. But, yeah, so Harry Kane has moved on. I do believe it will only be a short-term thing. I think he's going to go there, win a couple of trophies, and then head back to London. And probably back to Tottenham, let's be honest.
And try bring Tottenham back to the Premier League after
three
lacklustre years.
What, when they're in the Championship?
Yeah. You've heard it here first. Spurs are getting relegated.
Oh, God. You can
That's going to stir a pot.
You can tag Jake in that one, not me. That was him first. All right.
I'll stir the pot, I don't mind.
All right, so... next up we've got Chelsea's spending and Liverpool's lack of defensive cover. Obviously we've already touched a little bit on what Liverpool need. Chelsea have come out and pretty much stolen both of Liverpool's targets off them at the last minute. Caicedo was on his way to Liverpool, then said, I want to sign for Chelsea. And Chelsea then put in a higher bid so then they could get that player. And then they pretty much did the exact same thing with Lavia.
Yeah.
And Liverpool fan, go.
With Caicedo, I would have loved him to have come. but I don't think he made up his mind where he wants to go. You know, before he joined Brighton, he had his heart set for United. Then last summer or last January, he had a move to Arsenal that fell through after saying that he's always been an Arsenal fan, that he always wanted Arsenal. That didn't happen. And then this season, you know, it's always been Chelsea. I don't think this kid's had his mind made up. From speaking to, well, not speaking to, but from what I've gathered off a lot of Brighton fans on Twitter, his agent is an absolutely horrendous agent that only really has his pockets in mind and not the well-being of his players.
Sounds about right.
And you can see why he's gone to Chelsea. You can see why a lot of players have gone to Chelsea. Long contract, a lot of money.
Yep.
He's on near enough double what we offered him, what we could have offered him, and he's got that for the next 8 years with a potential year extension. And that is the exact same with Lavia. A lot of money, a big contract.
Yeah.
I'm more annoyed about missing Lavia after, you know, we did all the groundwork to try sign him. We fannied about with 5 million because we weren't prepared to pay it. And then we decided to go whack 111 on Caicedo. So I don't blame Lavia for fucking us off. I would do the same if I'm a player in his situation.
Yeah.
But you can tell the only people that are choosing Chelsea at the moment see the potential project that they're being offered as just a big payout.
Yeah.
And I don't blame them. I really don't blame them.
The biggest thing for me with this whole situation, though, is Caicedo and Lavia are pretty much the exact same player. So
Yeah.
You've got two players that have signed for Chelsea, happily to do so, and they're basically going to be fighting out for one position.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for me, that's just not smart. Let's be honest, Caicedo's the bigger money transfer, so he's probably going, and if he plays like he did for Brighton, he will be the one featuring. Lavia's
Caicedo will start. Lavia is the third choice.
Exactly. Lavia's going to sit on the bench. Chelsea have bought a 50 million bench warmer. It just doesn't make sense for me. If I'm Lavia, just as a footballer, I get that the payout's massive, but you go to Liverpool and you potentially revig that team, because I generally believe you stick a defensive midfielder back in that team and you're a lot more solid at the back, which means you have a lot more possession up front, and the attacking options you have is ridiculous. Like, even on Sunday there was a Salah, Jota, Diaz and Gakpo.
Yeah.
Like,
I think Gakpo's issue that game was I think we stuck him in midfield, which was just wrong.
Yeah, you did. Yeah,
he looked like a passenger.
You did. He looked completely lost. But well, we'll have to see how that all pans out. Like you say, there's still 2 weeks left of the transfer window.
We've made one signing at least. It looks like it's over the line.
Yeah, that Japanese guy.
Midfielder Endo from.
Yeah.
Is it Stuttgart? I think he played for.
Something like that. Is it a panic buy? Is it?
It's a stopgap. It's certainly a stopgap.
Have you been scouting him? Most likely Liverpool. Liverpool don't really panic buy.
Yeah. Without
he's doing their scouting reports.
We've looked at him apparently since before we went in for Caicedo. So
yeah,
we'll have done our due diligence looking at him before we've gone and think, yeah. But he's 30. He's definitely going to come in and play the Milner role. He doesn't look like a bad player. And it's his dream move, so he'll play for the badge, which is what you want in a player.
That's true.
Moving on.
Yeah, so last but not least, I just wanted to touch on this very, very quickly because we're coming to the end of the episode now. But it is the De Bruyne injury.
Yeah.
That is for me, even though it's Man City, it's still Kevin De Bruyne. That is a big loss for me.
You've seen it tonight in the Super Cup game. They looked lost.
Yeah.
They didn't have an out ball.
Yeah, I agree. I think honestly, in the Premier League, I think against 75% of the teams, you don't need De Bruyne because of all the talent you've got out there. But there's just some key games, like, for example, the Arsenal one or the Liverpool one, for example. You need a Kevin De Bruyne where things are not going your way and he just unlocks a door.
Yeah.
And I have to ask you this. Because obviously a lot of Haaland's goals last season were Kevin De Bruyne assists. Do you think this means De Bruyne, Haaland does not have as prominent season as last season? Because me personally, I do. Because even though Haaland's Haaland, the delivery and the goals for me just come hand in hand together.
Yeah, see. I don't think there'll be a massive drop off, but there will be a noticeable absence. If you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. I think he goes from having De Bruyne and not having De Bruyne, I think he goes from 40 a season to 25, 30.
Yeah, like it will still score a lot of goals. He'll still probably still get close to breaking his goal record in the league. But when it comes to Europe, I think that's where it'll be the big miss. Them goals.
I agree. Missing De Bruyne in Europe is very key indeed. And it's going to be interesting to see how the team, because you know Pep Guardiola, he always finds a way, no matter what. They've won the league without a bloody striker before. He knows what to do.
Yeah.
But it's just going to be interesting to see who fills that De Bruyne role in. Will it be Bernardo Silva? Will it be Cole Palmer like tonight? Phil Foden, who needs to, for me, revig his career a little bit at City. He's been a bit hit
I was
and
going to
miss.
say, I messaged my mate during the game, and he heavily disagreed with what I said. But I said, is Phil Foden actually the player he was hyped up to be? Because he's coming into his 6th season now at City.
Something like
He's
that.
been there a while, and he's not cemented a starting spot.
Yeah, I
For
think,
someone who's got all this, ability, like clearly there's a footballer there. He's a phenomenal player. I'm not doubting that.
oh, 100%. I think it's just the consistency. It's like I've always said.
Yeah.
The difference between a good player and a world-class player is the consistency.
Yeah.
That is literally it. Foden just needs to find a bit of consistency in that Man City team. And you look at Grealish, what he has, and he's now electric for them.
I thought he was potent tonight, to be fair. I thought he was...
He wasn't great. I think Jesus Navas had him a bit in a pocket, but he still showed glimpses. But that is pretty much it, guys.
Yes.
We have pretty much touched on everything we want to touch on from this weekend's round of fixtures and everything else that's happened football related. Just remember, guys, that we are running still at a fantasy football league. So if you do still want to join in, it's only been 1 week, so you've still got plenty of time to jump in. And if you are in the fantasy league, Jakey's going to put a picture of the standings up on the screen now for you guys to see who's leading the way after 1 week. We're not going to read too much into it because it's only been 1 week, obviously.
A lot of changes over a long season.
Absolutely. A lot of injuries. I think I might have had De Bruyne in my dream team, actually. I might have to just swap him out.
I think luckily I didn't.
Right, well, that is going to do it, guys. Once again, thank you so much for watching. Just one last little thing. We are going to be trying to get this podcast on Spotify in the next few days to a week, maybe. So make sure you follow us on Twitter and Facebook to keep an eye for when that will be going live as well. We'll try and get this week's episode live on the Spotify podcast channel as well. So if you guys can't be bothered to watch a YouTube video and just want to sit there and listen to the podcast, you will then have that option.
Yep.
And probably iTunes as well. But that's going to do it, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.
See you later, guys.